Boom. Okay. What the heck is going on, guys? Welcome to part 2 of behind the scenes mixing and mastering a song. And right now I just have like the fast forwarded mix and master process in the background. That stuff was like 2 hours long, so I figured it would be cool if I just play that in the background while I give advice and tips and tricks and just kind of a brief run through on what my mixing and mastering process is like. And the first thing I want to say about a mixing and mastering process is that there is no right or wrong way to do it. For example, if you really wanted to, you could follow exactly what I'm doing with this song and you can copy paste it on like 100 songs, right? But it's going to sound different for each song because the way I mix and master is I mix and master to whatever I think sounds compatible and what resonates with the beat. So there's always like different ways you could do it. Just find your own style, find what sounds cool to you and your ears, and ultimately whoever messes with you, whoever messes with your sounds, they're going to mess with the song regardless. And obviously there's tips and tricks and techniques that you could do to make it sound a little bit more professional and mainstream and high quality, and we'll get into all that. But the first thing I want to say is there is no right or wrong way to mix and master a song. Whatever sounds cool to you, go with it, don't overthink it. All the other technical stuff you'll just learn down the road. So yeah, that's just kind of like some general tips, general advice. I also like to say, follow your heart, follow your intuition, and just go with what feels right. If you're messing around with the frequencies, if you're messing around with the EQs, all these different things, if it feels right to you, then most likely it is right. So right now I'm just kind of using the parametric equalizer to give my vocals a nice crispiness, a nice sharpness. And the specific frequencies that I use, they're like very specific, they're very calculated. I did my research on like specific frequencies, specific hertz numbers to give the listener certain emotions, give them certain ideas, and just to kind of like positively influence the people who listen to me. I'm kind of like putting the medicine in the music. And all these frequencies that I'm putting in, if you take the time to look at them, these are actually very healing frequencies. These are actually very beneficial to your spirit, to your mind, to your soul. And yeah, just, I'm just manipulating the vibrations, the sound frequencies that your ears pick up, that your brain registers, and I'm making you feel good. So that's kind of just like a little bit of how my process goes. I specifically put like dynamic processors, hard limiters, amplifiers, compressors, single band compressors, multi-band compressors. I put like filters. Obviously I mess with like the reverb, auto-tune. I'll use a good amount of auto-tune on some of my stuff. And obviously, playing with the volumes is super important. I like to listen to my mix and masters through my headphones and through speakers. It's always important to do that. And right now, I'm just using a de-esser just to pick up those like hard S's. Sometimes it could sound a little harsh, so a de-esser just kind of smoothens that out. Yep. And then, you just kind of go over the beat, see what sounds good. If it feels good to you, then you keep going. If not, then you go back, whatever step you think needs to be adjusted, and you keep going. And, for me, usually a full mix and master song would take me, like from recording to final master, it would probably take me the span of a week, to be honest. Maybe 2 weeks, depending on how complex the song is. Just because I have to balance this with also... Hang on. Let me take my birds out of here.
Bring the pain, watch me play to waste all my competition. And we switching. They know my name, a champion that's made for fame and recognition. Release my wrath, watch it. If that don't work, I'll just. If that don't work, I'll just suplex and. Bring the pain, watch me. The pain, watch. Bring the pain, watch. Bring the pain, watch me play to when we switching. They know my name, a champion. I'd rather bless him with that man drop. I'd rather bless him with that man. I'd rather bless him with that man drop. There's no chance, just lock. It's one way. GG, no reads, lost before you lost it all.
Okay, so I'm back. I just had to put my birds outside because they were making a lot of noise. But right now it just seems like I'm getting rid of like all the loud air gasps or like all the breathing, like like all that type of stuff when I'm rapping in between. Just kind of getting rid of that. And then I'm kind of playing with the filters right now just to make some of the vocals stand out a little bit more compared to different ones. And yeah, mix and mastering honestly is like a video game to me. Just like a video game mainly for your ears. You know, there's a lot of settings and you just pick what you think sounds cool. And you get used to the settings, you become familiar over time. Like at first you don't know what the fuck you're doing. But like as you do it over and over, repetition, you experiment a little bit, you start to discover what each effect does. And then you kind of build a little routine on stacking all the effects that you like to make it sound as crisp and whatever type of style you want. And yeah, I usually start with my main vocals, and then afterwards, once those are all nice and solid and mixed, I'll go ahead and move on to like the ad-libs, the layers, etc. Harmonies if it's that type of song. But this is more of like a complex. No, let me take that back. This is more of a simple song, not a complex song. And right now I'm just finding the key and I'm loading into BandLab so I could put auto-tune on my vocals. Yeah, it looks like the key is major C sharp. So I'm just applying that just so it's in resonance with the beat, and now I'm just choosing the vocal auto-tune level. And I'm just kind of listening through. What I'm listening for is I'm listening for cracks specifically, because for whatever reason when it comes to auto-tune, it could crack and put little glitches, little glitchy sounds in your vocals. So usually what I do to remedy that is I just put a little bit less auto-tune than I think I need, because the more auto-tune you have, the more of a chance you have like those little clipping sound effects or glitchy sound effects in your vocals. And sometimes it could work depending on the song, but I don't know, I like more of a clean kind of sound. Yeah, and BandLab is pretty good. Like I record on Studio One, and then I mix and master on Adobe Audition, but also BandLab. So I kind of use both of them. But then when I master, specifically like towards the end, I use Adobe Audition. Yep, and I'm just exporting the auto-tuned version of the vocals for the song. And I'm just comparing auto-tunes, because Adobe Audition has auto-tune as well, but I kind of prefer this auto-tune on BandLab. So that's like another cool thing you could do. You don't have to limit yourself to just one DAW. You don't have to limit yourself to just one app where you mix and master. You could combine apps or websites to get a good sound of exactly how you want it to sound, you know? You could collaborate different apps. So now I'm just labeling everything. So I like to color coordinate all my stuff. That's what helps me organize. I'm gonna do that soon, pretty soon here. Right now I'm just syncing up the new auto-tune vocals with the dry, not auto-tune vocals, because I'm eventually just going to take out the non-auto-tune ones and leave the regular auto-tuned ones. So, yep, it sounds good. Yeah, but I think some like main highlights that every mix and master should have. Let's see, off the top of my head. Definitely the equalizing needs to be pretty solid. You know, when you mess with the EQ, on my version it's called parametric equalizer, but a lot of DAWs, they call it something different. But I think the EQ has to be really crisp, really nice. So you just got to study up on your frequencies and kind of like what areas make certain sounds. Because certain areas of frequencies, they sound more like muddy, but like other areas of frequencies, they could sound more like sharp and clean. So you just want to be aware of like which are the good frequencies and which ones are the bad ones type shit. Like which neighborhoods to stay away from and which neighborhoods are nice. That's kind of how I compare it. So yeah, you want a good EQ. You definitely want some sort of like, for me, you know, a dynamic processor. That's just like the foundation for your vocals. Definitely want some reverb in there just to give it like a nice ambience and just to make the vocals fit on the beat, just to give it a nice warmth. What else do you definitely need in a mix and master? A compressor of some sort, just to make the vocals sound a little tighter. You don't want to over compress them and make them sound like too tight to where it sounds flat. Like you want your vocals, obviously depending on the song, but you want them to sound rich and flush, and like there's a lot of movement in it, an area to breathe in the vocals. And yeah, compressors are a real good way to do it if you know how to balance it. And yeah, like some other effects that you could do is you could do like echoes or delays, or you could throw some distortion on there. You know, it all really depends on the song and what the vibe you're trying to go for. Like if I'm doing more of a screamo song, then I'm gonna throw a little bit more fucking distortion on there and make the bass hit a little harder. But if I'm doing more like a, you know, a chill, atmospheric, smoking weed kind of song, and then obviously I'm going to be adding a little bit more reverb, some echoes, some delays, you know, some panning of the vocals so you could hear my words, my ad-libs left and right on your headphones type shit, on your speakers. You know, there's a lot of things you could do. Yeah, so right now it seems like I'm just converting all the regular not auto-tune vocals and I'm turning them into auto-tuned vocals. And it's just a process, you know, and I go through a similar process with every song. And I'm sure I could put some like music in the background too, just so I don't have to like talk all the time, just whenever I have something to say. Yeah, and what I'm thinking is I have some like pictures on my phone that I use as references to get some good sounding mix and masters. So I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of like put them on the screen, and if they resonate with you, you could use them, you could screenshot them, you could incorporate them into your own mixing and mastering, because this is what I use. And if you guys are familiar with my music, I think it sounds really high quality and good. So you could take what I know and build on top of it. So right now it seems like I'm finding little clicks in the auto tune, and there's a way that you can manually get rid of it. There's like a little process. It works maybe like 70% of the time. Sometimes you just gotta, the click doesn't come out, the glitchy sound doesn't come out, so you gotta roll with it, and you gotta maybe raise the beat a little bit more, or lower the vocal a little bit more, or put like an ad lib or a layer or some shit to kind of mask it. But in those situations, you just gotta roll with what you got. Life hands you lemons, make lemonade type shit. So, and I'm just finding little hiccups, loud breathing, like gasps when I'm fucking rapping and catching my breath. I'm just lowering them as I find them, and just doing my little process to get rid of any potential clicks or glitches, errors that I find in my vocal mix. Cleaning it up, polishing it up is really what I'm doing. And it seems like I'm layering here, like I'm just doubling up on the vocals, perhaps. Making sure it's all lined up. Cool. Oh yeah, I think I found a click here, so I was just trying to clean that up, is what I was doing. And then as you can see, the ad libs, there's like the blue lines that kind of go up and down, up and down, up and down. That's me panning. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the blue lines, and with my mouse I'm manually moving them up and down, and that controls where you hear my voice in the headphones. So for example, if I'm going to my ad lib and I'm panning the blue line all the way up, you're going to hear my voice really strong in the left side. And then if I move that same vocal all the way down, then you're going to hear that vocal strongly in the right side. So I'm just kind of going back and forth. That way when you're listening to my music, it's kind of like I have ad-libs coming at you from both sides of your headphones. And it just makes it feel more alive, in my opinion. Like there's more going on, more engaging, more like you're in a world, more immersive.
Holy plan. Climb the turbo, holy plan. My job with that. Okay. Bring the pain, watch me play to waste all my competition. Hey, 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 position. Hey, hey, hey. Fill my page, link my movement, get you lost in days, constantly switching. Yeah, they know my name, a champion, that's made for fame and recognition. I stay always winning. Swanton bottom the top is another stop match. 1, 2.
And the thing about mixing and mastering is like you have to. Let me rephrase it. The one thing about mixing and mastering is you have to be comfortable with just listening to the song over and over and over and over and over. I don't know how many times I listened to the song before I actually put it out from beginning to end, just so I could try to catch like little bugs that are not supposed to be there, or just tweaking the volume like the slightest, and that's why it takes me the span of like a week or 2 weeks, because I'm just like taking breaks in between and refreshing my mind, refreshing my ears, and getting new perspective, new inspiration on how I could do the mix and master from my life. Oh yeah, so there's moments where you just listening to it for like hours over and over and over and over, just trying to like get it to sound exactly how you want it to sound. But like when it's done, the listener, they only hear the finished product, for the first time. Yeah, so right now I'm just putting reverb. For this particular song, I'm putting just more of like a sharper, shorter type of reverb. But if it was like more of an ambient, vibey kind of song, then I would add a different reverb and I would add more of it. And yeah, you gotta be really balanced with reverb, because if you put too much reverb on the wrong song, it's gonna make it sound horrible. And same thing, where if you don't put any reverb at all, sometimes it could sound too harsh. Not like your vocals are not sitting on the beat properly, like out of place. So you want to strike a nice balance. And I actually incorporate a couple of auto tunes. I incorporate two different ones. I incorporate a surrounding reverb and a full reverb, just so I could like double up on it. I like to double up on the vocals reverb. And yeah, I mean, there's different reverb for different occasions. Like there's reverb that I use specifically for my ad-libs. There's reverbs that I use specifically for vocals. There's reverb that I use specifically just for like overall song mixes, like the whole song together. So you just gotta like mess with it and come up with your own routine, like I said, and figure out what sounds good to you, and just kind of integrate that. And as you can see, my vocals, the way the wavelength looks, it looks very solid, very straight, like it's all one clump, it's all one size. I think that's a good indicator that your vocals are sounding as close to high quality, as close to professional level as possible. Because if you're at the end of your song and your vocals are like super not even, like some vocals are all the way at 3 volume and some vocals are all the way down at -12 volume, and it's just like everywhere and scattered, it's not going to sound right. But if everything sounds symmetrical, similar, on the same level, on the same wavelength, it's just going to sound more clean, more smooth. It gives it like a nice put together sound and feeling. But yeah, I'm just still adding reverb to everything. I'm just putting the same reverb that I put on my main vocals, and I'm putting it on like the layers, the ad-libs, etc. And I'm just listening to how the reverb sounds, trying not to overthink it. Like if it sounds cool, then I'll keep it. But if something sounds off, like I don't know, then I'll just like right away go back in and mess around with the numbers, the settings. Yeah, and my thing with the numbers is I don't necessarily have specific numbers that I go for, nor do I even know what every single effect does. But I just kind of like ballpark it and see what visually looks cool to me number wise, and then I see how it sounds once I press play, and then I just adjust it from there. Like if it's asking you, oh, how much reverb do you want? I'll just be like, I don't know, what's a cool number? 60? So I'll put 60, and then I'll just see how it sounds with the reverb level 60, and then if I feel like it's too much, I'll lower it, maybe 50, maybe 40. Or if I want more reverb, okay, maybe 70, maybe 80. And I just do that with all the little settings. It's like my intuition tells me, if that makes sense. Like my intuition, my ears, my eyes, they just kind of like steer me in the direction of how I want it to sound. Because if it looks and sounds cool to me, then someone who fucks with my music, it's going to sound like 10 times cooler and look 10 times cooler. Yeah, so now I'm just applying a filter towards all the ad-libs just to give it like a different sound compared to the vocals, because I feel like if the vocals and the ad-libs sound exactly the same, then you know they kind of overlap each other, they kind of blend in, you can't really tell what's happening. It sounds like two of the same thing going on. But if I apply a filter to make the ad-libs sound like ever the most even subtly different, you know, maybe it sounds more higher pitched, or maybe it sounds like it has more bass, or sounds more wide, or whatever, then it just automatically gives the song, the vocals and the ad-libs a whole fresh of breath air, you know, a whole breath of fresh air. I think I said it wrong before, but you know what I mean. It just gives it its nice little distinctive, unique, individual vibe. Yeah, and I do the same thing for the layers. Like I keep the vocals, you know, neutral, but then with the layers and the ad-libs, I'll apply like a different filter or like a different type of compressor just to make it sound unique and not like everything else. And look at me, just with the little frequencies, I'm just kind of making a cool shape, not really fucking thinking much about it, seeing how it sounds as it's playing, and then I'll just adjust it. Like, oh, okay, maybe lower it a little here, maybe higher it a little here. But I'm not like being super strategic or calculated when I'm doing this. I'm just going with the flow, letting my creativity ooze and flow out of me, and just having fun, you know? I don't know what else is more fun than making cool sounds and creating cool shapes with fucking frequencies, you know? So yeah, now I'm still just kind of messing with the volume. As you can see, I have the ad-libs at -10 because I want them to sound a little further away. And then I have the layers at like -5 just because I don't want them to be on the same level as the original vocals. I want them to sound a little quieter. But I'm making my main vocals the loudest because those are like where the listener's ears are going to be drawn to the most, is my voice and the beat. And for this particular beat, I'm making the beat a little louder than the vocals because it's just more of like a rock fucking hard trap beat, you know? Some songs you want the vocals to be a little louder than the beat. Some songs you want the beat to be a little louder than the vocals, but overall you want to try and make sure that you have a nice volume ratio between the beat and the vocals. And usually with ad-libs and layers, you just want to lower them a little bit more compared to the main vocals. Yeah, so right now I'm just kind of listening through it, seeing if I want to add anything else. I kind of already panned everything. I added the filters. I'm adding some de-essers just to make it sound smooth and more soft. Yeah, and like I said, each setting does something different, so you know, you don't have to put the pressure on yourself like, oh, I have to finish this song. You know, you could just make a song, throw it in whatever program you use, and then just have the full intention of exploring the different sounds and the different effects without the pressure of having to put anything out. You know, you could just master your craft, come up with a little routine, like, oh, maybe first I'll put a dynamic processor, and then second I'll put a normalizer, and then third I'll put a multi-band compressor, and then fourth I'll amplify it, and then fifth I'll put a single band compressor. You know, just like coming up with your own little thing, your own little steps of what you think sounds cool, the effects that you think mesh well together. Because that's the thing too, some effects, they mesh and they're compatible really well with one another, and on the other side of the spectrum, there's some effects where they don't sound good with one another. So you just have to like really play around and immerse yourself in it. So now I'm just saving. Okay, so I'm exporting everything. I'm just moving everything around, labeling, organizing, making folders. Okay, so now that I exported the whole song, now I'm going to put the whole mix, the whole song in BandLab, and I'm just going to add a few other subtle effects. I'm going to add a multi-filter. To me, in my eyes, in my perspective, to my ears, this just makes it sound like more symmetrical and more compatible across all devices. As you can see, I'm using the type filter all pass. I don't know specifically what it does, but like I said, to me, it just makes me feel like it makes the song sound really good, like across all devices, like I said, like speakers, the phone, headphones. You know, that filter just makes it sound like smooth on all of them. Across all the different devices. And then I added a little bit of a bass booster as well as like a vocal booster, high-end booster. Just boosted everything up just a tad. Just a tad. And sometimes, you know, I think a good general rule of thumb when it comes to mixing and mastering is less is more. A lot of the times when I'm mixing and mastering, I'm using like very subtle amounts of reverb, very subtle amounts of effects. I'm not like putting everything max 100, you know. Like some songs I'll put a little bit more, you know, if it's like that type, if it gives me that vibe that it needs a little more. But a lot of the times I'm just being super subtle. Less is more. Because you can always add more, but you can't take away less. So if you have a mix and master and you already saved it, and you fucking, you know, got rid of all your stems, I'd rather be in a position where I need more rather than I have too much and I can't take away. And that leads me to my other point. When you're like doing all this, you're going to have a good amount of leftover stems and files. You want to save all that. You don't want to just delete all this stuff willy-nilly. Like, you want to create folders and you want to save these files that you make. The dry vocals, the finished vocals that are mastered and mixed and auto-tuned. You want to save these. That way, in the future, if you ever want to go back and fix something or add something, or you're upgrading and remastering something, like, you have those starting points, you have those save points, and you can always just jump back into it, rather than, oh gosh, I only have this one file of the song and it's the mastered version, but there's like a bunch of clicks and errors and scratchy sounds in the beginning that I didn't notice, and now I can't go back to the song to fix it because I deleted everything else. You know, you don't want to be in that position. So save all your files, and save often too, because I can't tell you how many times I've been in position where I'm working on a song, mixing and mastering, and all of a sudden my computer crashes or the fucking power goes out, and then I lose the song and I gotta start over all the way from the beginning. You know, and it's like the thing about creative flow is once you're in the flow, it's hard to replicate. Especially with recording, you want to save often, because if you like finish a song but you didn't save and something happens and you lose it all, like you can't recapture that same energy that you put in to the vocals in that moment. You know, it's gonna come off different. And ultimately, when it comes to recording and mixing and mastering, you want to be like in the most present raw moment. Yeah, so right now I'm just adding like the final little parametric equalizer touches, just adding little things in there, messing with the frequencies a little further, you know, bumping up the beat, making the vocals sound a little bit more crisp and present and have a little bit more breathiness. And then I'm adding a hard limiter just to make it sound more put together and glued together. And I like to compare it to like if you have a bundle of sticks and it's just in your hands, it's going to be all everywhere. But if you have that same bundle of sticks and you put like a rope around it and you tie it, all of a sudden that bundle of sticks is like all close and together and firm, solid. And the hard limiter is that ribbon that keeps it all together. And that's how you do it. Thanks for watching.